Well, good morning, Second Life. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be. It is so nice to be back here on familiar territory. I just love everything about this place, about Science Circle. I love this beautiful venue. Every time I come here, there's something new, and it's even a more comfortable place just to hang out. I love its leaders, Chad and Jess. We've been working together for some years now, and I really, high on my love list are the Science Circle members and the colleagues and the students it brings together. This authentic personal connection with an audience. It really does feel real sitting here, not in spite of the technology, but thanks to it. The title of this presentation today is The Future Revisited. Can Global Learning Still Save the World? And the future we are revisiting here is this. Exactly 12 years ago, the Journal of Distance Learning Administration at the University of West Georgia published my very first journal article as a doctoral student. You never forget the first one, do you? And I was asking, how might we plug in global access to worldwide learning, tapping the inspiring new technologies at the time. Those of you around in 2005, you know it was an exciting time. And this 12-year benchmark seems like a good point to revisit that vision and see how far we've come through wiser eyes. 12 years, you get a little bit wiser, whether you want to or not, just by living and surviving that long. Lots of good things come in dozens, don't they? We get eggs and donuts, signs of the zodiac, tribes of Israel, days of Christmas, lots of things come in 12. And my very favorite is 12 stars shine on the flag of the European Union. And I always wondered why that is, because it doesn't represent a member nation count or any other symbology. The designer just thought that 12 is a perfect number, and I thought that was pretty cool. Some of us were so full of high ideals and visions of universal learning. I wonder how many people here, if I could just see in chat, how many people here are teachers, teachers of science, teachers of other subjects, anywhere in the world, and how many of you might be students, perhaps, that want to be teachers. The U.S. National Commission. There's a chemistry professor right there. Hello, Mike Shaw. We got any more coming in? It's another smile back from Mike. The U.S. National Commission on Excellence had issued an imperative that really resonated with those of us working in global education at the time. And they said that all, regardless of race or class or economic status, are entitled to a fair chance and to the tools for developing their individual powers of mind and spirit to the utmost. And how could you possibly argue with that? Looks like we got a few more teachers posting in here. Glad to see we have some educators in the room. Certainly students, I know, were very active in Science Circle. At the time, in 2005, only 1 in 20 people around the world was online, and most of those lived in North America. Only 17% of the world's adults were able to obtain some form of higher education. A lot of them couldn't even go to a city, let alone attend a university there. In all of Africa, in 2005, there were only 14 million phone lines, and that's fewer, phone lines than are in Manhattan or Tokyo. And the human rights group Freedom House identified at least 20 countries that restricted or prohibited internet access to its citizens. Yet, with the revolutionary digital age, those of you that can remember it, the exciting time, there was this new hope that aspiring yet precluded students around the world would be given access to education through the emerging technologies and the joint efforts of multinational universities. In 2005, I had been working on a USAID public education media project in Ukraine after covering the fall of the Soviet Union, and it just felt as if the whole world was transforming. And government and non-governmental organizations and companies and individuals were investing in programs to expand technologies and access to learning. And one of these programs was the One Laptop Per Child project. Does anybody remember that? It was founded by MIT Media Lab director Nicholas Negroponte in 2005. Dave remembers that. And it proposed providing children around the world with a $100 laptop. Back then, $100 was worth quite a bit more than $100. I think it was about twice that much at least in current value. And with that $100 laptop, they thought they could help to educate and even the farthest corners of the planet using mesh connections between laptops and even hand cranks for charging the battery in areas without electricity. The program has had problems with funding and the operating system and facing competing products. And, we've seen this before. Other programs and visions of worldwide learning follow a similar curve. The standard slopes and cycles of hype for new programs and products. First comes the high of inflated expectations, then a low trough of disillusionment. And with wiser expectations, we begin to climb again the slope of enlightenment until we achieve a level of productivity. And that plateau is what we're always looking for, isn't it? Where we can just move straight ahead without all the highs and lows of expectations and frustrations. And this applies to a lot of things in life, doesn't it? It certainly applies to relationships and marriage. I'm a chaplain on the side. I do weddings at sea, and I can even see this slope taking place within a single ceremony. Also, we saw that the new technologies just weren't doing what they hoped they would. As students were given access to network computers, perhaps for the first time in their lives, a Duke University study found that the test scores in reading and math were actually falling. And the students in the One Laptop Per Child program ultimately were spending more time on games and chat and spending less time on actual studies. And there are plenty of anecdotes illustrating the sometime failings of technology. Cotopaxi men in Ecuador were given computers, and ultimately they were not Googling farm resources and weather forecasts like expected. They were predictably probably looking at porn and unleashing untypical behaviors on poor, unsuspecting Cotopaxi women, which gets a sigh from Mike. Yeah. And when the impoverished women of the Wapishani and Makushi tribes in Guyana began making big money by marketing their hand-woven hammocks over the web, well, the threatened male hierarchy drove them from their homes. And, technology for technology's sake is not always the best of answers. As educators, we know that's true. Over the last dozen years, since 2005, I got a PhD in education, specializing in transcultural distance learning. And I have developed online and on-ground and hybrid courses serving students from around the world at UCSB, UCLA, California Lutheran, National University, and elsewhere. Here are some of the courses that I've been teaching them. Working with international students, I love it. It's the next best thing to travel. They come to you and they pay for the airline tickets. Can't beat that. I have published and presented quite a bit over the years, mostly related to international education and increasing global access to learning. I made several presentations right here in the Science Circle. You go to this website, you can find some links, and I know the Science Circle social media as well has some of those posted. My research has been published in some fairly reputable journals, such as UNESCO's Prospects and SAGE's Journal of Research and International Education. And I share this not to show off, but only to show that I've tried to keep current with the times, and I've tried to keep my hand in the current. as the topic of global learning remains high on our new decade's to-do list. So let's just look at how far we've come, or not, and what challenges remain, and what we might still accomplish in our efforts to educate the world. Just a quick heads up as we go that I do have a copy of these slides available if you like. You click that little I there on our PowerPoint screen, and it'll take you to a PDF file to download. Education is frequently touted as the fix-all to just about any social problem we hear about. For fun, I searched the phrase world problem solutions, and I got education among the top returns, along with science and self-confidence, the self-confidence fix, courtesy of the American Psychological Association. And all three of these terms, education, science, self-confidence, well, they all have deep roots in learning. And there are certainly plenty of urgent and deadly problems to address in the world. Global unemployment, international refugees, income disparity, national unrest, drug abuse. Well, the numbers over the years just aren't getting any better. And this year in particular, well, it was a record year for global unemployment, 200 million people out of work, and that number is climbing as the workforce grows faster than jobs are created. The world's displaced population hit a post-war high in 2006 with nearly 67 million refugees around the world, asylum seekers and others displaced on foot and homeless. You've seen the sad video of that. Over the last year, 1.3 million Americans were hospitalized due to a record opioid epidemic, and the suicide rate in the USA has reached a record high there also, rising 25% over a 15-year period. We as a world, we're just not doing well. And furthermore, by the year 2050, some futurologists and economists say artificial intelligence and robots will be replacing workers, and we may well have a well-entrenched new breed of people called a useless class of those not just unemployed, but unemployable. There's just not the work there. Some of us here may already be knocking on the door of uselessness. And the question is, well, what are we to do? It's an unhappy face from Mike, but let me tell you, Mike, the news does get better. It's the familiar question throughout many decades is, well, what then must we do? And education as a global solution often leads the list. And over the last 12 years, the ideals of universal learning have gone from fringe to even core. A recent survey by the American Council on Education shows that nearly 75% of responding colleges and universities place internationalization efforts at the top of their priorities. Number one, sending students abroad, and number two, recruiting international students to your home country. And these goals have been served well by the evolving technologies, and technology has certainly empowered us in ways that would have the 2005 world spinning in its heady times. Over the upcoming minutes today, we'll be looking at issues of course design and technology and administrative affairs and costs and faculty issues, subject matter, student support, and ultimately the global need for education. Each one of these issues must be addressed and interwoven. We can't isolate them as separate details, but they need to be considered as part of a holistic construction that hopefully will make it all work. And that's what we're going to attempt to do right here, if not succeed. And having traversed much of this territory between then and now, some of it's going to be first-person dialogue. Way at the top of the topics is the administration of education and what drivers are forcing change, especially in academia, where change does not come quickly. And that's an understatement, isn't it? To those of you working in academia, they say there's 3 speeds in academia. And if you don't like the first 2, you sure are going to like the third. Problems faced in academia are pressures to reduce costs while becoming more inclusive, and educators have to expand the relevancy and the reach of the materials while accommodating a greater diversity of student performance. We get some that are just outstanding, excellent, and then some that just really aren't ready for a college level course, but nonetheless, we need to accommodate them all. And campus PR reps are always striving for positive perceptions of the institution. And this is to help ensure public support for the tax dollars and alumni contributions that institutions are so dependent upon. And furthermore, here's another potent driver, is that society has a right to expect that higher education is accountable for fulfilling its high purpose, especially through its expenditures of public funds. And even for-profit colleges benefit handsomely from tax-supported financial aid programs. And if higher education is to become fragmented and misdirected in its social mission, the loss of public support could well cost all academic institutions. And it's worth noting again that the top 2 social missions for education commit to teaching the skills and knowledge that are necessary for participation in the economic, civil, and social life of a community. And this is especially challenging given the world's shifting technological and social and economic conditions that we just looked at that made Mike so unhappy. Under pressure to control tuition costs, administrators are going to become ever more dependent on public goodwill and support. And after nearly a 400% rise in college tuition over the last 30 years, well, finally, U.S. tuition costs this year are growing at the slowest rates in decades. So cash from that tuition is going to get tighter, and it's going to be further hit by high competition for enrollments and lower birth rates that are reducing the college age pool, and government clampdowns on financial aid and the discounts college must offer to remain competitive. This is a really hard time for administrators, and they deserve a little bit of sympathy and support and cooperation, I think, where we can give it. I am a teacher, and I do know, teaching for international programs, that finding faculty suited to teach in global education programs is really a challenge. It requires those who can design courses and tap the new technologies, serving a culturally diverse worldwide student body. That's a pretty high demand. And this has been one of the primary factors shying instructors away from new platforms and pedagogies. They simply don't feel prepared. And as educators are developing their own materials, which is very common these days for the classes and even your online courses, well, you need to develop the course materials, and administrators in turn need to offer compensation and ownership rights even for instructor developed materials. And some of the new arrangements that we've been looking at is co-ownership agreements that are becoming more common, where both the institution and the instructor retains rights to the content. And these are the kinds of issues that really need to be addressed between administration and teachers, because teachers living at a distance may rarely meet together with the administrators running the programs. And the relations between the online adjunct faculty and the administration, well, it might be improved with perhaps an ombud selected as a liaison between administration and teachers, where administrators need to hear the unvarnished truth of their faculty and the faculty needs to hear organizational concerns. And furthermore, as educators design content, I imagine most of the teachers here have designed their own courses, and it's crucial as we do that to consider the demands of students and of the greater society. And also we need to keep in mind again that the career choices may be increasingly limited for the future in 2050, and more demand will be placed on courses simply improving the quality of individual life, which raises the overall levels of society, doesn't it? Day met with the president of the college last spring who was not interested in online courses. Well, that's a minority. As we'll see in some numbers coming up, the majority of institutions now are offering some sort of online programs just to stay competitive. Sorry to hear that your geology class got discontinued. That's sad. Hopefully you can find another venue that's going to appreciate what you're bringing to it. Furthermore, as we are putting together our content, it needs to be globally accessible since we're going to be reaching out to a global student body. And we have to consider the technology around the world, as well as addressing differences of language and culture. Materials for customized courses teaching a global student body, I have found work best if I make my own materials rather than relying on textbooks and such. I look for simplified readings, or I rewrite readings, not dumbed down in concept, but writing for people where English is a second language. I want to use shorter words, shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, and written at about an 8th grade reading level, which of course will serve American domestic students as well here at our universities here. We also, since it's going to be a global student body, well, we want to use globally relevant case studies rather than simply relying on any one nation. Also, we're going to be looking for transcultural themes and images that resonate with our students beyond their cultural differences. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. There are also more skill-based programs being developed, whether it's non-profit or governmental or corporate, and these skill-based programs are going to be teaching more and more hard and soft skills, very specific skills, hard skills in the tech industry. For example, might include data mining and smartphone app development, user interface design. Those are hard skills to teach. And soft skills would be more for social engagement, including communication skills and teamwork and empathy and time management and open-mindedness. Those are soft skills that we need to be teaching. And also beyond the course design, programs need to provide other venues and niches to keep the students engaged with a sense of belonging and place. This is critical. Even as they live in different states or different countries or even different dimensions of time, synchronous and asynchronous. And these programs, to make the students feel a part of the institution, well, they can create social media and alumni groups, or they can stream live events, perhaps distinguished lectures or musical events, theater, athletic activities, or interviews. And I know this works. For about a decade, I have been providing international students in Second Life and now in Sansar with a streaming radio station broadcasting content such as expert interviews and primers on world affairs and communication skills and self-improvement. You can see there on the slide some of the topic issues that have been addressed in this program. And Oh, well, there you can see right there on the slide, there's the International Learning Center here in Second Life, which unfortunately is no longer in operation once our island closed down. And also, well, there's Sansar. It's my newly developed and highly incomplete experience in Sansar. There's the little radio tower and my little radio studio that aren't working yet. But pretty soon, you can click on the link on this in the slides once you've downloaded the PowerPoint presentation. It's a PDF file. These links are active. You can click on that if you like and listen to the radio program a little bit. The good news, some more good news for you, Mike. For native and second language English speakers, those of us all here, we speak English at some level or anyway. Some 25% of the world is conversational in English. That's 1 in 4 is at least going to be able to strike up a limited conversation. And those of us here, well, we already have a head start on the lingua franca of education and business, which for better or worse has turned out to be English. My doctoral work and dissertation, well, what it sought was ways to connect university-level courses to students in international learning programs, specifically at the University of California, and using themes and images that resonate across cultures wherever in the world you might be from. Some of my courses, I may have 30, 40 students there from 30, 40 different countries, and we're trying to find ways to get them interacting with one another, at least beyond their seating groups, and they tend to cluster in nationalities. In this study, well, research came from 40 different countries of students participating, and it's given an excellent laboratory for testing various themes and images throughout the years. It's one of the presentations, actually, I made earlier in the Science Circle. I wish I could keep an eye closer on the chat because that's where the fun stuff is happening as I'm watching my slides progress and trying not to lose myself in the notes. I know I'm missing some really fun comments here. I do go back and review them. So if I miss one of your comments and I can get back to you with an answer to a question or reply to a comment you made, I promise I will. I think it was a year, 2 years ago, this presentation in Science Circle. I don't know if they were getting recorded at that time. And it was about how themes and images of babies and animals and sports, personal relationships, the birth, life, death cycle, water, and other themes and images can create a cultural resonance in the room, where once again, the students are interacting beyond their national seating groups. If you can get them talking with one another to their classmates from different countries, different cultures, you know something has happened in the room. And you can watch a video demonstrating these themes at work, or you can read the UNESCO article on the topic, and links are, again, I believe the links are active in the PDF that you can download by touching that little eye there on the right-hand corner of the screen, your right hand. Boy, we've got some pretty cool tech that have developed over the years, this drive to tap and scale learning technologies has been inexorable. And it's all come so fast. I know I'm preaching to the choir. The power of online collaboration. Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well. How can we move us ahead, hopefully in productive ways? And we have come so far, so very fast. I remember my first computer had only 4 kilobytes of memory, though it could be extended. It was a TRS-80, and I can remember it could be extended to 16K with a Spendy add-on, which I bought. Possibly some of you here also had those TRS-80s, the color computer that came out. We also remember, not too far back, where MOOCs surfed a wave of hype in 2012, and programs entirely free for massive numbers of people. Sometimes the classes had as many as 100,000 students in some courses. And university partnerships got together and created 3 powerful MOOC programs, platforms. They're Coursera, Udacity, edX. We got a jogger here on the beach. And at first they were offering free courses, though they have since started charging fees, and you can get nano degrees and specializations and certificates and badges. And, while the MOOC experiment, did provide some positives, but it may still be left to traditional institutions to go about the business of degree completion. And that says the knowledgeable observer, Kathy Sandine, a very interesting article she wrote. And you can also click on that link, and read her piece. One nonprofit organization called Saylor Academy, perhaps you've heard of that. Well, it's been offering fully developed courses for free to a worldwide student body, and all of the nearly 100 openly licensed courses, anybody can access these and use them. Well, they have no tuition or textbook costs, and even 31 of those courses can earn students transferable credits from the partner colleges. And in full disclosure on this, I have designed 3 courses for Saylor. It is a nonprofit institution, and those courses include customer service and public relations and principles of marketing. And you're welcome to sign up for those. Get some credit if you can. It's free. The most immediate breaking technology, I think, impacting academia, finally impacting academia, maybe virtually immersive campuses. And many of us working in Second Life have spent years moving this idea along. I've been working with educational sites here, educational learning centers in Second Life, well, for more than a decade. I've lost count of the years. And these centers provide educational videos and read-along books and streaming radio and career and job resources, all aimed at an international market. Here is the button. And of course, also what we've been working on in our learning centers is talking about VR software compatible with the Oculus. Great, we're going to be taking a look at what's happening with that in just a moment. I am accepting your friend, Dave. Thank you. Also, what we're looking to do, I think, in these environments is to encourage social experiments. And this is so easily done in these virtual world environments, experiments in changing gender and race and physical abilities. And studies have shown that participants in this sort of exercise are developing increased levels of empathy for others, walking around in their skin a little bit. And it is a profound personal experience that we just can't readily duplicate in the real world. And this is an area, I think, possibly human resources and corporate training programs might find it's more effective if they can actually play the part, play the role, especially in issues, for example, like harassment or something. Let them experience, on the other hand, what it feels like to be harassed and see what kind of life-changing experience that is. And also providing a sense of place, just sitting here, you can just feel like you're actually interacting with real live people. And I'm sure this has happened to you too, when I'm trying to recall an experience or a conversation that I've had with a colleague, and whether it happened in Second Life or a virtual world or a real world connection, it's just as strong in my mind. I can't even remember which it was sometimes. Was it real or was it virtual? And so that sense of place is so critical to student success, student retention, that they feel like they belong. And the more that we connect with them, well, the longer they might stay connected with us as an instructional institution. Sansar, speaking of virtual immersive worlds, well, it's now open for everyone to come and try it out. They are building in this three-dimensional platform. I've been messing around with it a little bit, developing learning experiences for global students, similar to what I've done in Second Life, though it is a whole new learning curve to get that going. And, you know, as far as I can see, Second Life does still have some advantages over Sansar, substantial advantages for educational use. I can divide a Second Life parcel into multiple smaller media parcels like you see in this slide here. It's one of our learning centers. And this allows me to put several read-along texts with streaming audio and educational videos in these small learning cubicles right next to each other. And Sansar doesn't have that feature yet, and this is a feature I think is critical for educators. We see some problems here with Sansar. Does anyone know a fix? Well, I had to go get a new computer to get Sansar to work. That was one fix I went through. It's very demanding on resources, so that might be part of the problem right there. I haven't tried it yet with Rift Day. I tried the Oculus on it, and it seems to be working okay. I heard, in fact, we're going to be looking at that. In fact, let's go ahead and bring this slide up right now. Here's a couple of people who knows where all the tech is going. Philip Rosedale, the CEO of High Fidelity. He's also the founder of Linden Labs, and also tech evangelist Robert Scoble. Well, they held a webinar I attended to preview some of the emerging technologies. And this was really a fun and insightful event. I asked them about educational uses of the new 3D immersive technology in their platform, and they gave a very interesting in-depth response. And you can also find a link to the video and session notes on this slide. It's really worth a look to see what they're talking about. Some of the upcoming developments they mentioned was, well, this newest version of the Apple iPhone. Well, it has two 3D sensors in it, and it's able to project augmented reality on the phone screen. No doubt you've seen some examples of that already. And as the phone hits the market, it's projected they may well sell about 100 million of these phones in the first quarter. And that's about a 100-fold immediate increase in the number of augmented and virtual reality devices that are currently in place. So we're about to see a major breakthrough happening here in programs and apps designed specifically for virtual and augmented reality devices. The augmented reality kit works on iPhone 6 Plus and later. Oh, Dave, you already have one of those? Would really love to hear about your experiences with it. I love reading about the technology. I just don't get to play with it that often. Students around the world are already using augmented reality and virtual reality glasses to learn repair of million-dollar Caterpillar tractors and Boeing jet engines with virtual overlays. It's already being used. And also, as Philip and Robert pointed out, well, the cool thing about this technology is with just a finger snap, suddenly you're meeting in Yosemite or studying principles of gravity between planets by actually flying through the universe and feeling the gravitational tug. And also, it's really going to be useful for visualizing complex equations in math and physics and chemistry using 3D models. Mike, you must be pretty excited about that kind of technology coming. And, you know, these costs don't come cheap. I was making a presentation to one of our department managers not too long ago. I said, oh, we're just not going to be able to afford this. And, you know, the cost of development for the video game, Grand Theft Auto 5, $400 million in development expenses. And you're certainly not going to see a college program allocate that kind of budget. But as Philip and Robert pointed out, the cost for virtual world teaching, which is just hanging out sometimes and giving talks on stages and doing just what we're doing right here, well, these are simple and inexpensive ideas. They don't require a lot of programming, yet they give a very rich experience. And it's these kinds of applications that are going to carry the day, where the physicality of place and manipulating objects with your hands is just magical. Say Scoble and Rosedale. And they also say the promise of VR and AR in education could also have profound impacts on social class and discrimination around the world. And this is actually an environment, we know this is true, where people are judged by the content of their character and their posts rather than the hidden intangibles of race, gender, geography, or tax bracket, which we have no idea where we are in the world as we're sitting gathered here. And it doesn't even matter. What matters is that we're somehow connecting with our minds, and in this case, actual physicality, our projected minds. And even isolated regions, and this has always been an ongoing issue, is the schism between those that have the technology and those that don't. And even these isolated regions may receive, or they don't even have electricity or sometimes even running water, yet still they might be able to receive bandwidth distributed from balloons and drones. And companies such as Google and Facebook are already investing in this and accessing virtual world campuses through communities such as here in Second Life or Sansar or High Fidelity and what they're doing over there. And once again, so says Scoble and Rosedale. It was really a very interesting presentation. It lasted about an hour. It's really worth watching if you take a click on the earlier slide I showed here. Let me see, how far back was that? There it is right there. Yeah, if you just click on the video link there, I think you're going to find that a worthwhile listen. Many precluded students, but potential students, aspiring students, they want to be students. Well, they live in developing nations, not a fully wired world. In fact, the World Bank has found that out of the 6 billion mobile phones worldwide, 5 billion are being used as the primary internet connection in countries that are short on bandwidth. So what we need to do, and what I've done, is modified my courses. In this case, it's a course in customer service, and it's modified for access through cell phones and smartphones, and they can run even videos and read along materials and accompanying audio files. And WordPress, I found, really works well. It's a platform that makes it work well enough for access-challenged African students taking the course. I heard it works well for them. And here is a link on this slide. Again, you're welcome to take a look or even take this free class all the way through. Use it for your own programs if you like. Numerous researchers and analysts say there has never been a more important time for serving the purposes of global education, and we are playing a part in that. It's wonderful to be with you today. Data show that where education is strong, people become better, and countries with higher education attainment are more likely to have political regimes grounded in democracy and a sense of civic duty. And adults with higher education are also more likely to trust other people and benefit from good health and volunteer in their communities and feel politically empowered. And this is regardless of gender and age and earnings, simply by becoming better educated. We receive all these benefits. Countries are made more prominent by a commitment to education. India is developing 20 world-class universities with a focus on STEM subjects. Mike, maybe you'd like to go teach in India for a while. Brazil's University of Sao Paulo is the only Latin American university in the Times Higher Education World Reputation Rankings for 2017. Congratulations, Brazil. And simply put, where education is strong, people do better, academia does better, nations do better, and the world becomes a healthier and more engaging and trusting home for us all. Yet there is still much to overcome in bringing universal learning about. Yet we no longer have the luxury of simply, wondering what can we do? What should we do? Right now, given the state of the world, the problems that are just not getting any better, in fact, continue to get worse, well, we no longer can just sit around and think what we can do. But we have to, we must focus on the must of what we need to do. And I'm getting tired, I gotta tell you, after 15, 20 years of banging my head against all the obstacles and the administration issues and the funding issues. Well, you get tired doing this, don't you? Well, I do try to recall as I continue to plug away, as we all continue to push towards this. Well, in the history of everything that has ever worked, there was a long, long time when it didn't. And we may just right now, I'm feeling it in my bones, we may be on the cusp of a major breakthrough in access to global education. And as we look forward towards the next dozen years, we shouldn't be too discouraged by the slow pace of reform and how it usurps our aspirations and our energy. But instead, it helps to keep a fix on the horizon. And I'm a sea captain. I'm used to knowing that just over the edge of the horizon is quite often home. And there's also dragons beyond the edge, so we need to watch out for those. And I also keep in mind the advice of superstar hockey player Wayne Gretzky. I gotta admit, I don't think I've ever seen a hockey game in my life, but I love this quote, is that to be successful, you don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where the puck will be. And that's where having a little vision is certainly useful, keeping an eye on that horizon. And that's it for this presentation. Boy, I know I've sure thrown a lot of detail and data out there, but download the slides and review, hopefully, some of the key points that you may be looking for. And I am going to open it up to questions in just a moment. There's my email right there. Do feel free to zap me any questions or comments you have on any of this. And once again, be sure to click the slide, the I sign there on the slide display. Gives you a copy of these slides if there's something else you're looking to pull out of that. Also, you're going to see that I've attached readings and references in case you want to dig a little deeper into some of these articles and issues I've been talking about. Most of the links in the PDF are active, but a few are inactivated to protect copyrights on some of the articles. But if there's an article that you see that you can't access from a hyperlink, go ahead, send me an email and I'll try to help you get a copy of it. Here are some of the references I mentioned. Lots of good stuff in here. Not everything in this list was mentioned in our presentation today, but nonetheless, there's some pretty good readings that you might want to take a look at. 2 pages of references. Mahalo. Mahalo to you, Gwinnett. Thank you. Are you there in Hawaii? And this finally is a slide that I typically end my courses with. And as I bring this up, it means it's the end of the course, end of the term. And at that point, I urge my students to believe that this world belongs to you just as much as it belongs to anyone else. So stake your claim, stand your ground, and do good things. And that's the final thought I will leave you with as well. And I will pause and see if there's any questions. I'll take a quick look back at the chat here. I think I've caught most of everything through the corner of my eye. But feel free, if I haven't answered anything that you were looking for yet, feel free to post it right here. Jess and Chan, I'm going to go ahead and leave this display here, I will open it up for access. I just unlocked it. Anybody now can go ahead and advance through the slides or grab a copy of the slides. And when you're done with it, just delete it or send it back to me. And I want to thank y'all for turning out. As I can zoom back now, I can see there's a pretty good group here. In fact, I'm going to grab a quick picture of you. I'm doing some work with futures programs at different universities, and I love to show them how beautiful this particular build is. Thank you so much for Justin Chan keeping your work up with us, inviting me once again to present to the Science Circle. Here's some clap, 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 claps. Thank you, Mandel. And a little bit of love from Jess. Thank you, Jess. And thank you, Mike. Sure glad you turned up today. I think you were one of the people I friended during the presentation. I look to sharing some more ideas with you. Do I use 3D for my work? No, I got to tell you right now, and one of the reasons, of course, is simply because the rest of the world isn't accessing this, but I am working to learn the fundamentals anyway. And what I really want to do is hire somebody with much better developing skills than I've got, better artistic skills. But, you know, it's very important to know the fundamentals, isn't it? Thank you, Chan. Okay, well, I think I have caught everybody here. I am going to run off and finish the rest of my work for today. It's now coming up on 11 o'clock here in Southern California. So I'm going to take a stand. I wish I could take a bow, and I'm certainly applauding you in my heart, if not in my avatar. And I'm going to wish you all a pleasant good day. Thank you again.